Hey, it's Shelley, and welcome back to the She is Courageous podcast. Right, when this one goes out, it will be 2 weeks until Christmas, I think, which is insane, quite frankly. I do not know where this year has gone, even though it's been a cracking one. But I thought this was really appropriate to share in December. However, I'm just going to call this out now. If you're listening to this weeks, months down the line, and it's not December, this is still relevant. Don't press pause, stop, go back and think it's not relevant, because this is about making time for you. It's just that it's really apt to talk about it in one of the busiest months of the year, because December is a really common time for people to basically crash. Burnout, get ill. And it's the worst time for it to happen because it's, of course, supposed to be all about spending time with family. I think it's important more than ever these days to give yourself time for you. And if you've had a bit of a year or a bit of a few weeks, a bit of a month, the point of today's episode is about you remembering more than ever you are allowed to give yourself a break. Actually, I'm going to talk about superhero syndrome. And that is the idea that you can do it all. And whilst we may have noise all around us suggesting that we can, should, and must do it all, today I don't want it to be about that. I want it to be about making time for yourself. Now, as I said, when this goes out, I think it will be the third week of December. So I'm going to position this now. This is about you making time for yourself in order to avoid the end of year crash, but actually enjoy the next few weeks as well. Now, I know all of this is much easier said than done. But I guess in a way I'm imploring with you, if you're listening to this thinking, I do need this, here's a few tips to avoid burnout this Christmas, but actually more generally in life. So I'm going to get right into it, because I always talk about, I'm going to give you practical tips through the She is Courageous podcast, and that is what I'm all about. I love to educate, raise awareness, but fundamentally, you know if you need to make some time for you right now. So let's talk about some really simple tips to avoid crash burnout and instead make some time for you. First tip is knowing when to say no and what to say no to. And this is a bit about honesty, okay? Not everything is necessary. So just really be aware of who you're spending your time with, be that in person or virtually. In fact, more so these days, because we spend so much of our time on screens. Just really pay attention to who you're spending your time with. And again, I want to kind of really reiterate this. When we're spending a lot of our time on screens, we're letting people into our worlds. It might not be conversational, but every time you are giving your time to scrolling through social media and seeing what everybody else is up to, you are letting them infiltrate into your mind, therefore your time. So think about where you are spending your time, who you are spending your time with. Think about what events you're saying yes to over this Christmas period, and just make sure that they're really serving you, filling your cup if possible. Now, I appreciate there may be some things that you have to say yes to. You kind of don't get to say no. But maybe just at this time of year, think about your most precious resource is your energy. So do your best to spend it wisely. I suppose the caveat is this is not an episode where I'm going to talk to you about dealing with people you might not want to be spending time with. I'm simply saying to you, in the spirit of awareness, know when to say no and what to say no to. Be aware of where you're spending your time, be that in person or virtually. That's my first tip. Second up, okay, you've got to get really, really disciplined about prioritising your to-do list. It's so easy to keep adding things to your to-do list. We do this all the time. At this time of year, there's an urgency, there's a deadline for some things. There is a timeline here to get everything done. This mad rush before the end of the year. This isn't just about Christmas. There can be a real feeling of all the things that I haven't achieved this year. I've still got to make it happen. There's a lot of noise across the socials about this mad rush before the end of the year. And hey, part of my narrative has been, it's not over yet, but not, you must get all this done. The reality is that not everything is urgent. Okay, not everything that's urgent is important, and not everything that's important is urgent. Now, I could get into a wonderful tool. Maybe I'll put a link into the show notes on this one. There's a brilliant tool that we used to use actually back in my corporate days, the Urgent Important Matrix, okay? But actually, we used to use this in corporate to look at our to-do list and get really clear, and categorise our to-do list between what's urgent and what's important. And equally, what might be urgent but not important, i.e. has a deadline but actually isn't that important. Or other people are putting upon me and saying it's urgent. There can often be important things that actually don't have urgency about them, don't need to be done this side of Christmas, don't need to be done before the new year. And there's a whole load of stuff, I guarantee you, that is not urgent and not important, but on your damn to-do list. So I guess that my point here is, if you've got an ever-growing to-do list, and that is just feeling like overwhelm and really putting the pressure on you and definitely telling you you can't make any time for you, just get really clear about what's actually a priority on there. Now, everyone's definition of priority is different, and that's probably a whole other subject. But you need to get really clear about what is important, what is urgent, what has to happen. Because in order to give yourself a break, you are going to have to find some time, some space in that to-do list. In most cases, I can assure you, the world will not end if you do not manage to get it all done. And I could make it about Christmas presents and, that far-flung cousin that you're telling yourself you've got to buy something for. Have you? My point here is just get really clear on the to-do list. And actually, even if you just take the next 3 weeks to the year end, how much of that stuff that you've got written on there that is applying pressure psychologically actually needs to happen before January? You might surprise yourself. That leads me very nicely to my third tip, which is be really aware of other people adding to your to-do list. At this time of year particularly, there's a lot of people around you that might be going into the end of year panic, and they will likely or could be adding tasks to your to-do list in an attempt for them to get everything done by December the 31st. Now look, this comes back to a little bit about where are you spending your time, who are you spending your time with. Your job is not their to-do list. No matter how helpful you want to be, set some boundaries, okay? Know that just because the end of the year is coming, it does not mean that suddenly everything needs to be done in a rush. Some things can wait till January. Back to point 2, okay? Tip 2, important and urgent. Just maybe think about who else is putting upon you right now? Who else is suggesting everything that needs to get done? Who else is adding to your workload and maybe just needs a little bit of guidance on their own to-do list, but certainly some boundaries? My fourth tip. Now, I mentioned right at the top of this, superhero syndrome, okay? It's a thing. I mean, I might have made it up, but it's a thing, okay? Because we do like to put on the superhero cape. Ladies are a nightmare for this, okay? Now, I know predominantly it's women listening to this podcast. It's called the She is Courageous podcast, but I do have some gents listening too. So I'm going to call it the superhero, not the superwoman syndrome, okay? Superhero syndrome. I know you're amazing. And I know you could probably do all of what needs doing yourself and put yourself under all the pressure if needs must. But do you know what we also need to know? It really is okay to not do it all. It is also okay to admit that you can't do it all. It's also crucial to admit that you can't do it all if it's going to be detrimental to your well-being, to your physical health, to your mental health. Burnout is a real thing. And there are a lot of people. The reason I decided to talk about this today is because I am seeing and hearing through my clients, through the members of the She is Courageous Collective, there is a real feeling of, what a year. You can feel the tiredness, the physical tiredness, is that right? I don't want to use the word burnout, but we are close to burnout in a lot of cases. Burnout is the most physical way for your body to tell you to slow down. I want you to listen to the signs before it's an issue. I want you to pay attention to your body right now, to your mind. You do not need to do it all. You do not need to do it all for everyone. You can. There's a wonderful phrase. You can do anything, but you cannot do everything. You don't need to try. And that's the point of this. Stop with the superhero. Stop trying to be everything to everyone. Stop trying to have the best Christmas of all the Christmases. Stop trying to beat Mrs. Jones down the road in terms of Christmas. Just do you. Just do what you need for you right now. Just do what you can. Pay attention to your body. If it's telling you to slow down, make sure you listen. Which takes me nicely to my 5th tip. I've already said, inadvertently, pay attention to where you're spending your time, who you're spending your time with. I want to take that one step further. And I want to talk about stepping away from what's not serving you. I want to talk about stepping away from what makes you stressed or, worst case, unhappy. So, news, social media, maybe even a family member or friend. This is taking that, pay attention to where you're spending your time, who you're spending your time with, where you're giving your energy to. This is taking that to the next level. This is about saying, make time for you and what you need, and take that time from something else. If you need to step away from the news, step away from the news. Let's be clear, most of the news is pretty depressing. It's not filling our cups right now. Social media, if it fills your cup, crack on. If it doesn't, if it's triggering, if it's draining you, step away. If there is a particular family member or friend that really does not serve you well, that really makes you stressed and unhappy, is there a way you could step back, step away, protect yourself a little bit? Set that boundary. You don't have to go and have difficult conversations. I'm not suggesting you do that right now, but just think about how you can step away from what's not serving you. Because ultimately, this is all about making time for yourself. Your health, physical and mental, is the most important thing. I know you've heard it 100 times, but it is the most true statement there is. Anyone who has ever experienced any form of burnout will agree, will back me up, will tell you. And if you are one of those people, then you know. We know how pressed for time we get in December, okay? And yes, we might be a couple of weeks in. Maybe you're already like, do you know what? Have you seen my last couple of weeks? Well, no, but I kind of get it and I know what it can be like. So you have to prioritise what you need for you in order to, and I'm inverted commas, get through the next couple of weeks. I don't want you to just get through. I want you to enjoy it. I want you to come out the other side, ready to step into 2025 and whatever you want that to bring for you. So what do you need in order to relax a little bit? What do you need to feel a bit calmer? What do you need to fill your cup? What do you need to replenish your energy levels? Now, I'm not sitting here giving you permission slips for anything because I can't do that. Only you can give yourself permission slip to do anything differently. But if you do not look after yourself now, your body will make you look after it further down the line. And I don't just mean your body and your mind will make you look after them further down the line. I don't want that to be the case. It never gets easier, the festive period. You can get through it, you will get through it, but I'd love for you to not just get through it, I'd love for you to come out the other side saying, hey, that was a really great Christmas, a really great New Year, and I'm ready for 2025. What do you need to do to make time for you so that you're ready for all the brilliance that 2025 can bring to you? That's what today's episode is all about. Really thinking about what do you need to do to make time for you. So let me just recap on those tips. Know when to say no and what to say no to. Pay attention. There's still time to say no. There's still time to create time and space for you. Get a grip on the to-do list. If you just keep adding to it, go to it now and just really get brutal with it. Make a not to-do list. I've talked about those before. Get really clear on the actual priorities just for the next couple of weeks. You can deal with picking it back up and what are the next set of priorities when you come back to it in the new year. And alongside the to-do list, just pay attention and be really aware of other people adding to your to-do list because of their wants, because of maybe their own mindset around what they think they need to achieve or it needs to look like. Just get really clear about it. It's not your job to do their lists. Just focus on yours. Get rid of the superhero syndrome. You do not need to do it all. In fact, ask for help if you need to. And I didn't even say that in there. Step away from what is not serving you. Turn off the news if you need to turn off the news. Turn off the notifications. Hey, banish the mobile altogether if it helps you. Think about family members or friends that maybe you need to protect yourself a little bit from, and I mean that in the right way. Protect your energy from. And finally, do all of those things that lead you to make time for you. Where is the time for you carved out, booked in? Go look at what your diary looks like right now and commit to yourself. Make a promise that you're going to find some space for you, whether that's a tiny bit of space every single day or a big chunk of space out the backside of this. You do what you need to do, but make time for you. Let's not be sitting in the early stage of 2025 with your body saying, now you need to look after me.